Welcome to this new automotive news video, the first video of the week of May 4th, 2026. We'll kick off this week by discussing Renault's launch of the new Renault 4 electric car called Plein Sud. This version is likely to be particularly difficult to sell since it's more expensive than the rest of the lineup, yet it has a smaller range. We'll also discuss Volkswagen, which can't profit from its electric cars, and Leapmotor, the Chinese brand from Stellantis, launching the B05 in Europe at a price that will seriously challenge European competitors. We'll discuss Donald Trump creating new challenges for Europe's auto industry by announcing new taxes, and also cover Formula One. It's very rare that I talk about motorsports in my videos, but this time, there's actually some good news since the head of the FIA, the International Automobile Federation, has announced a major step back regarding the electrification of single-seaters, and especially the return of larger displacement combustion engines for the upcoming seasons. These are the topics of this first video of the week. I hope you'll find it interesting. If that's the case, I count on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, boosting this one on your device, and of course by leaving a comment where you share your opinion on today's news. And we'll start by talking a little about Renault, which is announcing a new version of its electric Renault 4, which is supposed to give a bit of a boost to the sales of the Renault 4, which so far hasn't been selling very well. According to the latest news in April 2026, it was only 33rd among the top 100 best-selling cars in France, far behind its electric cousin, the Renault 5, which climbed to 7th place in the same ranking. So, it's not selling very well. In comparison, that's why Renault keeps rolling out new versions of the Renault 4, trying to finally find a formula that works well, commercially speaking. That's why they just revealed the Renault 4 Plein Sud, whose main feature compared to the normal versions is a large sunroof that measures 92 cm long by 80 cm wide, a fabric roof that can be opened by button or by voice command. So, be careful. We're not talking about a convertible. Since the roof pillars remain rigid and fixed, it's only a version with a large sunroof. Otherwise, it's the same as a standard Renault 4. And this Renault 4 Plein Sud can be purchased with the Techno Equipment Pack or with the Iconic Pack, which have exactly the same features as those found in these different versions on the basic Renault 4. It's not ugly and has a pleasant vacation vibe, but the performance, the technical side, and price are where it gets tricky. First of all, this car is only available with a single powertrain option, with a 150 horsepower electric motor paired with a 52 kW battery, which allows for a maximum range of only 392 km compared to 409 for the classic version. So that's 17 km or less range for the simple reason that this Renault 4 Plein Sud is heavier than the traditional versions. We don't know exactly how much it weighs. What we do know is that the base version, Renault 4, with this battery, it's still around 1,500 kilograms. It's heavier for the simple reason that it's a version with a sunroof, so the roof isn't completely solid. To avoid losing rigidity, handling, and safety in the event of a collision, the vehicle has to be reinforced from underneath. More materials are used, and that results in a vehicle that's ultimately heavier. And because it's heavier, it consumes more and therefore has less total range. As for charging time, it's exactly the same as the traditional Renault 4 with fast charging at 100 kWh. So technically, on paper, it's a car that's a little bit inferior to the traditional Renault 4, yet it's much more expensive. The traditional Renault 4 with this battery sells for around 34,000 euros. For the Plein Sud version, we're talking about a price of 37,000 euros for the Techno trim, which is the least equipped trim, and 39,290 euros for the Iconic version. So on paper, it's technically worse than a Renault 4, but more expensive. If we compare the Renault 4 to models from other brands, it becomes very difficult for it to find selling points, because you just have to look, for example, at Tesla with its Model 3, which starts at 37,000 euros. Also, it claims 534 kilometers of range, so that's still 142 more than the Renault 4. A much higher charging speed, 250 kWh for the Model 3 compared to 100 for the Renault 4, with about 280 horsepower, nearly twice the Renault 4's output, even though it's meant as a fun lifestyle model. When considering key factors for buying an electric car, the Model 3 offers much more for the same price, even before comparing it to Chinese brands. Indeed, Stellantis is launching the B05 in Europe through its Chinese brand Leapmotor, an electric car that has some serious advantages considering the price at which it will be offered. It is now available in Europe in two different versions. The first is a 56 kW fully electric version with a range of 400 kilometers, and the other version has a larger battery, 67 kW, which should reach 480 kilometers. In terms of power, we're looking at a car that develops around 220 horsepower with an 8-inch digital display for the dashboard, a 14.6-inch central screen for managing infotainment, and a system that allows for Level 2 semi-autonomous driving, thanks to 14 built-in sensors and cameras. All this for a price that starts at 23,000 euros in Spain. and around 25,000 in Italy. There's a good chance that in France it will be a little more expensive, probably around 27,000 euros, knowing that, and this is a small drawback, it won't be eligible for France's EV incentive. Still, at 27,000 euros without the bonus, it's cheaper than many European electric cars, which offer less range or slower charging speeds. I might not have mentioned it, but here the charging speed is still 174 kWh, which allows you to go from 30 to 80% charge in just 17 minutes. We did talk about the Renault 4 earlier, but it's not the same size. The B05 is slightly longer and lower. We're looking at more of a compact format here, whereas the Renault 4 is more of a compact SUV format. Still, even with the bonus, the Renault 4 Plein Sud we talked about earlier will be around 31,000 euros. 4,000 euros more, yet with 70 less horsepower, 74 kWh less for charging speed, and about 15 kilometers less in range as well. Something else happened this weekend that I haven't mentioned on video yet. Donald Trump announced an increase in taxes on cars sold in the United States, a tax that was set at 15%, which will finally go up to 25%, because the Trump administration believes that the European Commission simply took too long to ratify, that is, to officially implement the trade agreement that was reached between the European Union and the United States a few months ago by the end of 2025. So that's the official reason. We also know that there is a strong possibility that some statements made by the German government against the American military strategy were poorly received by the Americans. In any case, no matter the reason, the taxes will actually increase from 15% to 25%. This especially penalizes German manufacturers who, after losing their #1 market, China, risk also losing the American market if they don't speed up their investments in the United States. To quickly set up factories there in order to directly produce Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, or Volkswagen cars, to sell them directly on American soil without facing the 25% tax. We'll see how long this lasts. Donald Trump often reverses his announcements within 48 hours. Still, this usually causes panic in the already struggling German automotive industry. Let's reference the Association of German Car Manufacturers president, who urged the U.S. to uphold agreements made a few months ago. But she also asked the European Commission to speed up the ratification of various trade agreements to avoid making the European economic and automotive crisis even worse. By the way, since we're talking about a German brand, Volkswagen just explained that it won't be able to achieve the same profitability with its electric cars. What does that mean? Match the profitability of its combustion engine cars, at least not before the year 2030. For example, they explained that even with their new MEB platform, designed to save Volkswagen production costs by supporting the cheaper LFP batteries, in contrast to the old MEB, which only worked with the pricier NMC batteries. Even with the MEB plus, the average profit margins on Volkswagen's electric vehicles are 30% lower than the margins on their equivalent combustion engine vehicles. Volkswagen estimates that it won't be able to reach the same margins until the arrival of the SSP platform, which is expected around 2030. This puts Volkswagen in a rather unique situation, where it will have to make the following choice. Either accept to keep selling electric cars with lower profit margins in order to sell more and avoid the European CO2 fines, which are expected to cost them around 500 million euros during the 2026-2027 period, or keep selling combustion engine cars, which earn Volkswagen higher profits. But then they wouldn't meet European Commission CO2 limits and would have to pay 500 million euros in fines. And to finish this video, I'm still going to talk a little bit about motorsports. It's pretty rare for me to do so, but when there's good news like this, I have to mention it. Honestly, I haven't followed Formula 1 for years. Ever since they switched to V6 engines in recent seasons, it just feels like the cars aren't fast anymore. It looks slow, it doesn't make any noise, it's boring to watch because nothing happens. There's just no excitement anymore. The FIA, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, is well aware of this because it's a criticism that's come up a lot in recent years, as they've tried to boost Formula One's ratings and win back the public's attention. The president of the FIA announced two things. First, a review of the hybrid component in Formula One cars for the 2027 season, because in 2026, the V6 hybrid engine in F1 is extremely hybridized. There's a very large electric component, except that this electric part isn't available all the time. For reasons of endurance and range, it's not possible to carry 300 kilo batteries on Formula One cars to make them last lap after lap. That's what explains the drop in performance for Formula One in the 2026 season. They lose power quickly and feel sluggish because they run out of juice fast. And secondly, she wants Formula One to go back to V8 engines, starting from 2030 or 2031 V8S, that will still be hybrids, even if to a lesser extent than today, and V8S that will be turbocharged. Let's not get carried away. We're not returning to naturally aspirated engines, even though that's amazing. It's not finalized yet, and we don't know all the future changes. In F1, we know that a change like this would really annoy some brands, especially Audi. They're one of the only brands really supporting the hybrid V6 as it is now. But the president of the FIA has already said that anyway, and I quote, "The manufacturers won't be able to oppose it." So, yeah, it seems pretty much settled. We'll see how it turns out. Anyway, that's it for today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, as usual, I count on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, and supporting the channel by clicking the join button below. See you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.